Hey guys, in this video we're going to be going over everything you need to know to tank as a protection warrior at level 80. Tanking as a warrior at this level is very satisfying because not only can you do some decent damage, but you can mitigate a good amount as well. I'm not going to go over spec or gear or anything in this video. Since you've reached level 80, I assume you know how to spec and what gear to look for. Let's jump into what abilities you should be using as a protection warrior. Devastate, one of your main attacks that adds a stack of Sunder armor to your target. Rend, applies bleed to your current target. Thunderclap, a 6-second cooldown that spreads Rend to every target within 8 yards while slowing their attack speed by 20%. Cleave, a high rage cost ability that hits 2 targets, 3 if you have it glyphed. It's really good for multi-mob pulls. Revenge, it can only be used after you block, dodge, or parry. This is going to be one of your main attacks, and if you spec into it, it will also hit 2 targets. Charge, a great ability to start off most fights. It's a great gap closer and it generates rage. Shield Slam, a shield backhand attack that dispels an enemy buff. Damage is increased when you have Shield Block active. Shield Block, an ability on a 30-second cooldown which increases your chance to block by 25% for 10 seconds. Victory Rush, an ability that is activated after you kill a target. When it is used, it causes damage to an enemy and heals you for a good chunk of health. Concussion Blow, a 30-second cooldown that stuns the target for 5 seconds. Pummel, interrupting a spell and silencing that school of magic for 4 seconds on a 10-second cooldown. Taunt, an ability that forces the target to attack you for 3 seconds. Heroic Throw, a ranged ability that silences your target and is on a 30-second cooldown. Shockwave, a frontal cone AoE stun that deals a good amount of damage while on a 20-second cooldown. Demoralizing Shout, reduces all nearby enemies' physical damage by 10%. Shield Wall, a 2-minute cooldown that lasts 12 seconds and reduces all damage taken by 40%. Berserker Rage, increases your rage generation while removing fear, sap, and incapacitating effects. Spell Reflect, a 25-second cooldown that reflects one spell back at the caster. Commanding Shout is an ability that increases stamina for all your party members for 2 minutes. It generates 20 rage and is on a 1-minute cooldown. Battle Shout increases the strength and agility to all your party members for 2 minutes. It generates 20 rage and is on a 1-minute cooldown. Last Stand is a 3-minute cooldown that increases your health by 30%. Enraged Regeneration is a 3-minute cooldown that regenerates part of your health over 10 seconds. Challenging Shout, a 3-minute cooldown that forces all enemies within 10 yards to attack you for 6 seconds. Now that we have all the abilities covered, let's see them in action. Ah, come on, there's always that one DPS. Come on, accept it. Come on. You're making me wait for nothing. Now that we are in the dungeon, I tend to look for mobs that do a lot of damage and try to silence, stun, interrupt, or kill them as fast as possible. At level 80, your healer's mana will be rather low, and they will need as much of it as they can for an emergency. Make sure whenever you see an enemy going after your DPS or healer to instantly taunt them so the healer doesn't have to waste mana on keeping them alive. Sometimes you can't stop the massive AoE that is about to happen, so try to mitigate it as much as possible. Make sure Thunderclap is up and Demoralizing Shout is active at all times to help lower the damage that they do. If you're taking too much damage, don't be afraid to pop Shield Wall since it's only a 2-minute cooldown. The majority of the time, you want to tank the boss so he faces away from the group so that way the DPS doesn't get hit by any cleaves. Doing this simple maneuver can help save your healer a bunch of mana. If you're fighting a boss and he throws AoE down, get out of it as soon as possible. Do not move too much though, because it can get frustrating for the melee DPS to be constantly moving. Leave enough room for the melee DPS to sit behind the boss without standing in the fire. There will be fights where you will be getting feared. This is a great time to use Berserker Rage to quickly get the boss back under your control, so that way you minimize any damage done to your fellow players. The only time that I do not have Vigilance on my healer is when I have a DPS that is constantly pulling threat off of me. When you're tanking a boss that throws things that blocks your line of sight with your fellow players, try to place your healer on focus so you can constantly watch where they are. Line of sight is stressful enough for the healer with 3 other DPS to keep alive, so make sure you are easily accessible for a heal. I've been focusing on the healer a lot through this video, but make sure you take care of your DPS as well. They're just as important as you and your healer. When fighting a single target and you aren't having any trouble with threat, make sure you keep Shield Block on cooldown and activate it every time it is ready. Your main attacks will be Devastate, Shield Slam, and Revenge. I never use Heroic Strike because it uses a large amount of rage. Try to keep Rend, Thunderclap, and Demoralizing Shout up too if possible. If you are having trouble keeping threat on the boss, use Devastate until you get 3 stacks of Sunder Armor. Activate Shield Block and then use Shield Slam. Use Revenge whenever it is available. Keep them on cooldown. While these are on cooldown, use Devastate. And if you can, Thunderclap and Demoralizing Shout to reduce the damage taken. A pull can go bad in a heartbeat, so you have to be on your toes. If you see a party member accidentally pulls a group that you aren't currently attacking, quickly gather them all up and make sure you have them attack you. Rend and then Thunderclap to get a good burst of threat. Normally this is enough to get them to focus you, so start spamming Cleave and Thunderclap. If you still don't have enough threat on them, use Shockwave. If Shockwave is on cooldown, then use Challenging Shout. You will now have every target attacking you that was within range of the shout. Thunderclap to keep Rend on all of them and pick up any strays. If the strays are a melee class that's attacking somebody else, a taunt is good enough. If they are caster type, use Heroic Throw. By this time you will be taking a lot of damage. Shockwave, Cleave, and Thunderclap will be your best friends. Don't hesitate to use Shield Wall and Last Stand, it may very well save your life. Also, if your healer dies, use Enraged Regeneration as soon as you get about 50% health. Use Victory Rush every time it is up. And if your healer is dead and you've spec'd into Devastate so it procs Victory Rush, then just start spamming Devastate. Keep in mind to use Shockwave and Concussion Blow just to temporarily completely stop some of that damage. Well guys, that's pretty much all there is to know about warrior tanking. Remember, your 3 main attacks are Devastate, Shield Slam, and Revenge. Keep your Shield Block on cooldown. For AoE pulls, use Rend, then Thunderclap, and start spamming Cleave and Thunderclap. Demoralizing Shout when you can. If you run low on Rage or get feared, use Berserker Rage. Spell Reflect can mitigate a lot of damage, so use it on caster bosses. Don't be afraid to use your survival cooldowns. Keep your party members safe and have a great time tanking. Also, I want to give a shout out to my buddy Lee. He just had a baby girl. Congratulations, man. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave a comment or message me in game. Osbin here. Thanks for watching.